Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Open Mic Comedy Podcast. I'm your host, Mark. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. This podcast is here for people on the open mic comedy circuit, whether you're a comedian, an MC, a promoter, a tutor, in fact, anybody who has any involvement in this industry, even comedy fans who really do enjoy spending their time in pub basements watching the possible stars of the future. Even better, if you want to join in on this open mic comedy circuit, you get to hear firsthand from those that are inside it and what it's like. So this is the podcast for you. Today's guest is someone I've shared a stage with a few times. She's a 4-star review from Funny Women for her Edinburgh show, Live Your Best Life. She has made TV appearances on Comedy Central and BBC, and she shares not a single resemblance to a Moroccan prince. But when you hear the voice, it may seem familiar to some. By night, a comedian, by day, an accomplished voiceover artist. Please welcome to the stage, Emmy Fyles.
Yay! Blooming heck, you've done your research, haven't you?
I always remember a few things from people's sets. So when you go and listen to some of these podcasts, there'll always be a little Easter egg to somebody's set in there.
Oh, I love it. I'm really glad you picked the nice Funny Women review because I was applying for Edinburgh yesterday.
Okay.
And I accidentally came across a review of myself that I've never seen before, which was a 3-star review that described me as an enjoyable clown.
Oh, interesting. Enjoyable clown.
Yeah, but also the website was called clownster.com.
Oh.
Which to me sounds like it might be more of like a fetish website for people who like clowns.
Yeah.
Rather than a comedy review.
That person that's got all the masks behind them, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Hundy P.
Yeah.
They like the little like that really gets them going, you know?
I'll tell you, just give me a really good idea for a soundboard icon. So let's start from the beginning then. So voiceover artist first or a comedian first?
Actor first, actually.
First.
Yeah, that was what I suppose kicked it all off, really. But yeah, I've done comedy longer than I've done voiceovers, for sure.
So how long have you been into in the comedy scene then?
So, do you know what is weird? Is I have always been obsessed with comedy, yet never ever realised that I wanted to do it.
Yes.
Like, as a kid, I had, French and Swordness and Victoria Wood on VHS, and I knew them, like, word for word.
Yep.
I was obsessed, used to watch them over and over. And yet, all my life was like, I want to be an actor. But I wanted to be a very serious actor. I mean, I took myself incredibly seriously when I was younger. And basically, all I wanted was to be in a period drama.
Okay. Downton Abbey style-y.
Oh, I mean, this is, if you, I don't know if you're familiar with the Jane Austen Pride and Prejudice, the 1995 version.
Not specifically that one, though.
Oh, well, Mark, you've got to get on it. It's absolutely brilliant. It's fabulous. Stars Jennifer Ehle and Colin Firth.
Okay.
So you may have seen some pop culture references to Colin Firth being in a wet shirt coming out of a lake.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, well, that's what it's from.
Okay.
And I think that was a very big influence in my life. I really wanted to be in a Jane Austen drama. Also, those dresses make your boobs look amazing.
I was going to make a comment about that, but I thought I better not.
Well, I'm allowed. I'm allowed to say it. You're not.
Corsets everywhere. Everywhere.
Well, no, that's where you're wrong, actually.
Oh.
Because this was not an era of, like, difficult corsetry. These dresses are apparently quite comfortable to wear. Okay. But they're, right, just to, I know you're a man and you know about, like, dresses and stuff, but the Empire line dresses, so they're, the line is right underneath your boob, so it hikes you right up. Right. But without the uncomfortable corsetry. So, win-win.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Fair enough.
You didn't think we were going to talk about that today, did you?
No, that wasn't on the plan.
No?
But
okay,
hey,
well, I like to bring something extra.
Yeah, it's fine. I love it. These deviations this is what makes this a natural chat and an enjoyable chat. Something that we're not expecting.
What a lovely way to say, oh God, this is going to be a long podcast.
No, that's good. You actually used to have a podcast, didn't you?
I did used to have a podcast, yes. Now I just go on other people's. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know if my mum's going to listen to this podcast because she doesn't know that I had a podcast about porn.
Okay.
So, basically, to give some context, the original idea for the podcast that I used to do, which was called Porn This Way, was meant to be, because I don't watch porn, it was meant to be a sort of educating Emmy vibe.
Oh, okay.
And it was our initial jumping off point was going to be my world sort of introducing me to the world of porn. I mean, there's worse ideas. But somehow in the making of it, that got lost. And what it essentially was myself and one of my best friends, Lolly Jones, just reviewing porn.
Okay.
Let me tell you, I've seen some things.
I was going to say, there's a question that it's just... What was the best thing you watched? No, I'm not sure. Yeah, go on.
Well, no, go on. I'll tell you. So we did build up a bit of a following. So we used to then get listener suggestions, which was amazing.
So you had to Google these things.
Yeah.
Incognito
mode. Yeah. I'd never used that before. But basically, our favourite one. There's a company, a British gay porn company, and I want to say it's called something like Lads with a Z. It's something like quite
right. Yeah.
And all the videos are so bleak. Our favourite one, just to give you a bit of context, the favourite one was set in the job centre.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they're all in like full grey trackies. Right. And so there's like a job centre leader being like, come on lads, you need to like do some job applications. And then they all just start banging. It was so weird. It was the most British thing you've ever seen.
Oh,
it was hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, on that smooth transition then. Voiceover artist. So we've got, actually, let's go. So you started as an actor first with the desire to be in Pride and Prejudice.
Yes. So I went to drama school. Yes. And again, it didn't occur to me that like the comedic roles were, I mean, probably I was more comfortable if I was in a comedic role, but I think I felt that wasn't as important. Which now, of course, I think comedy is the most important.
Of course
it is. But I think if it, I don't know, I felt like if it wasn't in a serious, like deeply emotional part, that there wasn't as much value to that.
Okay, yeah. So it's just somebody being silly rather than trying to put on that serious posture. And
little did I realise at the time that comedy acting is way harder to be good at, actually. Than,
I can imagine.
Yeah, anyone can turn on the tears, but, you know, can you make people laugh? Well, she tells herself.
So how long have you actually been doing comedy for then, as a stand-up?
So I'm a bit of a weirdo. I've sort of done it intermittently. So I did a stand-up comedy course years ago, with the intention of, well, actually, to be honest, with the intention of just giving myself something to do because the acting work wasn't coming in. So I did this course. I was living in Manchester at the time, And, you know, I thought I'll start gigging. But then the person who ran the course asked me to join a sketch group that she was setting up. So very quickly, my plans of doing stand-up kind of went by the wayside because I was rehearsing with this group we were called Kooky Babushka.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was rehearsing with them sort of 3 nights a week. So, stand-up went to one side for a very, very long time. So I was working with those guys for a few years. You know, we did a couple of runs at Edinburgh.
Cool.
I had some very fun and interesting times. It was great.
I bet as a group of people together that are, especially I guess in the fire pit as such of Edinburgh, being around each other most of the day.
Do you know what? I mean, all I'll say is after our second Edinburgh, we never gigged together again.
Yeah, you had a good second album, but that was it. That was enough.
Yeah. I mean, it was a shame because we were getting interest from all the right people. Like, we were due to go and meet with, like, Avalon, and we were being mentored by Baby Cow, and we were getting, like, you know, we were doing really well.
Yeah.
But I think this, you know, the person isn't going to listen to this interview. I'm sure it's fine. There was a 1 against 3 situation, shall we say?
Yeah.
Yeah, which culminated in her, even though we were living together, what she would do is put her headphones on, listen to Bon Jovi and Hoover, just to avoid speaking to us.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, it was a vibe. It was a vibe.
Probably not quite as dramatic as Robbie leaving Take That, but similar vibes.
I mean, what is as dramatic as Robbie leaving Take That? Come on. I mean, I'm sure there was probably a hotline for people to ring if they were sad about Kooky Babushka splitting up, you know. It was a real loss to the comedy world.
There was a MySpace page, no doubt, or something like that back in the day.
Oh, God. I mean, I think we were post MySpace.
Okay.
I think. God, oh no, I'm going to have to go back and delete a few things if that did still exist. But
so after that was the stand-up, as in the Emmy Fyles stand-up that we see kind of ish today.
So Kooky split up, and I think I decided I was going to see what it was like to be a person who just did their day job and was just normal and didn't do anything creative. And I was miserable and I hated it. And it's a blessing and a curse that if I'm not doing something creative, I absolutely just fall apart. So I hadn't done anything for ages, bar the odd stand-up 5 minutes here and there. Yep. And I thought, I know what I'll do, having not gigged solidly for several years. I'll write an hour-long Edinburgh show.
What?
Look, brave or stupid, you decide.
Ambitious?
Ambitious, yeah. So I wrote a show called Live Your Best Life, which kind of, basically, it came out of having depression because I wasn't doing anything. And it was sort of a reflection on, you know, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. Comparing
yourself to people that you see online, these images of perfection, and, you know, how that affects one's mental health.
Yep.
Doesn't sound funny, it was. I promise. It was dead funny. So I took that show up to Edinburgh with no real expectations.
Yep.
And it did really well.
Cool.
Yeah. So as a result of that, so it, you know, it got like Guardian Best Shows at the Fringe. No big deal. And I was invited to meet with, you know, BBC New Comedy, and that was really amazing. And also I met with Tiger Aspect, with one of their producers. So we then developed the show into a sitcom pilot.
Okay.
which has just gone out to channels. So let's see.
Oh, okay. So that's still on the radar at the moment.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's very unlikely to get a first script made, isn't it? But, you know, it's still, like, amazing to go from sitting in my bedroom, having not done anything for so long, to then, like, have all this stuff come out of it. I mean, it just, you know, it is a lesson in, like, taking risks, I guess.
Yeah.
That they do pay off. But I also know that's a very anomalous way of doing Edinburgh. I know people seem to think there's like a set format where you have to go up and, you know, you do other people's gigs and then you do a shared bill and then you do a coward hour. I'm like, no, just do what you want.
Yeah. No, I do agree. It's whatever you feel comfortable with and whatever you want to achieve. If you feel more comfortable in a split bill, do a split bill. If you want to just go hell for leather and do whatever, do whatever.
Or if you're just naive and you don't know that that's what you're meant to do.
What is really interesting now is I've spoken to 7 or 8 people and I've shared stages with pretty much everybody I've spoken to so far. And everybody has a story that nobody's told yet. And these are the first times these things that I'm hearing coming out about people. I never knew you've progressed that far, and stuff like it's quite amazing when you see somebody's 5-10 minutes on stage, and then you start delving deeper into that person and what they've actually done. It's hugely impressive.
But I mean, it isn't though, because you sort of, this is like hinting on a big point, is that if you don't then. Because I do dip in and out of stuff, like I don't, and also COVID hit as well, so you know there was nothing going on, so I don't think that I necessarily sustained that momentum, and so this year for me, well, not this year, it's 2024 now, isn't it? Yeah. Last year for me, I was like, right, I'm gonna get back into it now. I'm gonna throw myself into doing stand-up again, because there'd been such a big hiatus, and once again it was getting me down that I wasn't doing anything. So, I mean, you know, voiceovers, that's a creative outlet to a point, but it's not really. Because I mean, I absolutely love doing it. If any agents or any employers are listening, it's my favourite thing to do.
Links at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll share my show reel. No, I absolutely love it. But, you know, you're completely restrained by the script, by the direction. You know, it's not your own work. You can put a cheeky spin on it sometimes, but it's, you know, it's not your words. And that's the thing, is that comedy offers that acting, voiceovers do not, is that it's your voice.
Yeah. No, it's your voice, it's your words, it's your expression, and how you want to portray things rather than being directed in a particular way. I think it's one thing I've spoken to a few people about recently, is that it's certainly as an open mic comedian, you are your own writer, producer, actor, director, marketing. You are your own everything. So it's an awful lot for something that only is generally at this. Certainly for me at this stage, it's 5 minutes. It's a lot of work.
God, why do we do it, Mark? Why do we bother? Jokes.
It's an interesting one, actually, because somebody who I've spoken to as well, they're the sort of person that's dipped in and out over the years and have had a long career in comedy, but they've been in and out. And the question I kind of sort of proposed was, so why so many breaks and stuff? And she came back and said, it's not so much the breaks, it's when I'm not doing it, I can't not do it.
Well, that is, as you were saying that, those are the exact words in my head, is I can't not do it.
Yeah. It's weird. You try to explain it to family members and stuff like that, you know, why do you want to gig so often? Why do you want to do all of this? And you kind of go, I can't explain it. I know there are some people out there that have the ability to gig 5 times a week, and more kudos to you. But then you get the people like a bit like myself that can only do once or twice a week, and you start wondering, am I doing enough to improve? But if I start doing less, all I'm going to do is start thinking about what I'm going to do the next time I'm on that stage.
Yeah.
And there's always, I think, that thing in your head, well, so I certainly have it, is if I spread things out too much, that if I do a bad gig, I know I've got a week to go before I can try and rectify that in my head.
Oh, that is a horrible feeling. You really get in your own head when that happens.
It's that whole thing is why did they not find that funny? What did I do wrong? What did they do wrong? As in
but
the
also,
audience and stuff like that. And
you can do a joke you've done 20 times before, and then all of a sudden someone will just take against you and they don't laugh, and you think, what?
Yes.
The thing is, I don't know. You have to have you have to back yourself, don't you? So in that situation, I normally just tell myself, no, I'm funny. And that's not helpful always, because probably I should analyse it a bit more and think, why didn't they laugh? But I think you've got to learn to separate when a joke is bad and when either you're just not giving off the right vibe or the audience just doesn't want you. You know, it'll happen. You know, sometimes, I don't know, maybe people hate Northerners, and given that I've made that in my entire personality on stage, that can be tricky, you know?
Yeah. I can see that.
I've done a couple of gigs recently because I have a joke about the Tories, and it's not really occurred to me until I've got there that I'm gigging in a Tory stronghold.
Yeah.
However, it is fascinating to me that I won't. It's a bit rude, so I won't say on the podcast what it is. But the joke asks people to guess which party an MP is from who has committed a fairly heinous act.
Yep.
And it's weird that despite voting Tory, these people still recognise that, yes, that is a Tory MP that's done that.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, I'd like to think they'd go away and question why they'd still insist on voting for someone who did that into someone's handbag. But
politics is a very strange, I guess we're deviating, but this is something that's always amazed me, is that no matter which way you kind of vote, I think there's still a massive influence to what your parents would have voted. So if your parents were always Conservative voters, then you've probably become a Conservative voter. But I think now that the gap is starting, that trend is starting to shift slightly, with more and more people being more involved in politics and seeing what goes on. But there's still bits of it that completely and utterly baffle me. Is that we had where I live, we have a Tory MP, and in the 2019 election, you know, when they have like the hustings, he refused to turn up because he refused to turn up and sit on the stage with a Labour member who was supporting Jeremy Corbyn. Whatever your thoughts about Jeremy Corbyn or whatever, that's by the by. But if I don't, that to me, that hustings is somebody's interview. If I don't turn up to my interview, I do not get given an £85,000 a year job.
Exactly. Just do your job.
But he got voted in.
Well,
you're just like, what?
They're a law unto themselves, aren't they? And, you know, it's a whole old boys network, blah, blah, blah. We all know this. But nothing shocks me, having worked for Parliament, to be honest.
Oh, you've done that as well?
Yeah. I know there are other comedians on the circuit who also have worked for Parliament. I don't know if you've interviewed any of them yet.
I have interviewed one. We didn't discuss anything about Parliament, but
right, but then I won't name him just in case he doesn't want to make that public.
But he told me after that he he's not afraid of he's allowed to talk about it.
I mean, he talks about it on stage, so
I'm not sure if we're talking about the same person, but we'll compare notes at the end.
Oh right, okay. Oh God, there's probably loads.
There probably is, because this guy actually works for basically the complaints part of Parliament.
Oh, we are talking about someone different, because the person I'm talking about doesn't work for Parliament anymore.
Oh, no, this one still does work for Parliament.
Oh, I wonder if I know them. Interesting.
They're on an episode very soon.
Okay, I will listen very closely.
Unfortunately, he doesn't mention Parliament in that show, but
I'll still listen anyway.
He's worth listening to.
Okay.
So we kind of touched on the whole jokes working, I am really funny, please laugh at me kind of thing. So let's go through this. There's 2 standard questions. Let's start with the best moment you've had on the stage.
Oh, yeah, I find that really hard to answer because I get quite embarrassed trying to like big myself up. But do you know what? I guess maybe like my last showing in Edinburgh when I was doing Live Your Best Life, and it was at the time where shows having a message was very much a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, slightly emotional end. And having done, you know, a run of the show and it all having gone so well. And, you know, I was very fortunate because of the way it had been reviewed and the Guardian stuff and all that like my last show I had like queues literally down the street, which is something
Excellent.
that I will probably never replicate again in my life. But it was such a buzz. And yeah, that final show went really well. And the emotion of it being the last one and it, you know, being like just so proud of it. And the audience was so incredibly responsive and like just ending on a really good one. Yeah, it was, just a really emotional experience. And I know really when you ask that question, I probably should be talking about when I've told a dead good joke on stage.
No.
But I think to go from being so unhappy and to be doing so little creatively and just feeling so incredibly lost to sort of turning all that pain into something funny and something that people related to and something that meant something to people was just like a huge moment for me. And it was really, really special.
No, there is absolutely nothing wrong with, like you say, bigging yourself up or whatever. If that's the moment and that's how you felt, that's the answer.
Yeah, that was nice.
So now on the downturn, what's the worst moment?
I mean, I could go on all day. So when I think more ridiculous things have happened doing sketches than they have doing stand-up because there's just more room for ridiculousness. So when I was in the sketch group, we were booked to play a private members club in Manchester. Now, just to set the scene... So nobody in this members club wanted to watch an all-female comedy sketch group. That was not what they were there for.
Yeah.
Do you know what they were there for?
No.
A man auction.
A what?
A man auction.
That is what it sounds like.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, they brought one man after another out onto the stage, would give a little bit of a bio, and then these women would bid for a date with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it had gotten a bit weird because they were bringing these guys out and, like, obviously, if it's an auction, you want to get as much money as you can for the person, don't you?
Yep.
But they brought this one guy out and they were like, "Hi, everyone, this is Josh. He's 25. Josh was born with his legs on the wrong way." What am I supposed to do with that? Or his kneecaps on the back? What happened? Like, I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was the setting for this comedy show that we had to perform. Anyway, so in this sketch group, well, this is going to sound bad. I used to play a character called Jizz Girl.
Okay.
So, God, what is life? So I was dressed in like a Wonder Woman, Supergirl type costume with a cape and everything.
Yeah.
Except it had a J on the front for jizz. And
of course. God. What else?
And halfway through the sketch, we had a prop, which was a ring binder that said the word comedy for beginners on the front of it, which I slipped on and fell on my arse.
Not deliberately.
Not deliberately. And the people at this private members club who've been bidding on this man auction didn't even bat an eyelid.
Oh.
That is how disinterested they were. I mean, I'd basically broken my coccyx or whatever in a jizz girl costume. And no one cared. No one cared.
No one said you could be the perfect companion for Josh.
No! I didn't even get
on.
a date out of it. Can you believe that?
Imagine that, you hobbling along, or trying to, but him walking backwards all the way.
Although, as we were leaving the venue,
sorry, Josh can't get his image of this bloke with his legs on backwards.
Right? Exactly. So as we were leaving, we spotted this guy, and we're like, "Oh, sorry, excuse me." It's like, sorry, girls, like, I'm done with the man auction now. We're like, "No, sorry, just wanted to tell you, you've got your jacket on inside out." Poor Josh, man.
It's not his night.
It really wasn't his night. I think they only got about like £13 for him as well.
Oh.
I
God.
know. As if the man's not been through enough.
Okay. Have you done any gongs and or competitions?
I did my first gong show a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. How did that go?
Yeah, beat it.
Well done.
Thank you.
Blackout?
It was the one where they wave dildos around.
Oh, Ding Dong Gong Show.
Yes. Yeah. So I've got a spot at their proper night in a few weeks. So that's
excellent stuff.
That's good. They're vicious though, aren't they? So tell me, Mark, have you done many gong shows? Because I want to hear about other people's experiences of them.
I've done 2.
Yeah.
I did one, which was my 7th ever gig.
Madman.
I know. And it went really well. I didn't beat the blackout, but I got to like 4.5 minutes. I know.
That's amazing.
I never thought I'd get that far. It even got to the point. This is how diverse I found gong shows. In my first one, I actually forgot part of my set, and I had the audience clapping, cheering me on to get there. And they didn't know how many gigs I'd done. So that was really friendly, and I got to 4.5 minutes, and the annoying thing was I was about to say Toy Story, and if you know my set, you know my set. But I didn't get to say that. Those were my next 2 words, and that was the moment I ended up getting kicked off.
Still, though, you did really well.
Yeah, I was talking to Jim Hooker about this, and we call that a gentleman's win.
Nice. Yes. Jim is a very good friend of mine.
Yes, and then I did a
gentleman though. Jokes. I'm joking, Jim. If you listen, sorry.
I'm sure he will listen. But I did a gong show last week, and it was awful.
Go on, tell me the goss.
I felt like I started well. This is actually something about sets, and you mentioned this about the Tories thing, was that there is a Tory joke at the start of my set, and I took it out deliberately because one of the people holding the card was like a 55-year-old well-dressed gentleman, shall we call it. And I thought that joke's probably not going to work that well. It's not going to do me any favours. So I thought I would change it up a bit, and I changed it up a bit. And it felt like things were going kind of well. I was having like audience interaction. So I'd say something and go, and give a clap for this, and people would do it. And I was in the groove, and things were flowing, and I'm like, this is good. And I don't know if you know, but the blackout, you get 2-minute grace period, and then after that 2 minutes you can go. And
right.
I got to the point where people were laughing, and the light went, and then straight away the 3 cards went up.
No.
This is the point that I had probably the front 3/4 of the room laughing hard. and I was getting into the story, and the 3 cards went up. I don't know if they just went too early or whatever, but I've got the video, and there's me like at the end going, "What?"
Bet you were like, "What?"
It's like,
what's wrong with them, the miserable gits?
I expect to go off if it's one of those where it's silence and you can tell nobody's enjoying it. But the moment that people are laughing, and then these 3 people got to gong us off, it felt horrible, and it demoralised me for probably about a week. It was terrible.
I'm so sorry. That's horrible.
No, it's what happens. But the other thing was that when we looked at the night as like a retrospect, the night there was 10 comedians in the first half, 10 in the second. I was in the first half and I was 4th on, and the first 3, none of them got through. So I thought, I've got a chance here. And then when I'm thinking it's going well, and I felt comfortable on stage, confidence was there, I'm in the flow, and then go. One person got through in the first half.
Bloody hell. Oh,
and
no.
Only 2 in the second half.
Oh, I'm doing Beat the Blackout next week. I'm dreading it now.
don't honestly, there's certain the kind of, I gave somebody some advice before about who was doing their first one, especially with the blackout, is don't have your best joke as your first joke.
Yeah.
Have a funny joke, but have a really good laughing joke at about 1 minute 50, 1 minute 55. And that was my plan for this one. And the line that I had was, as I've got older, my relationship with something has changed, and that relationship is with piss. And the whole front were that was I hit that word dead on at the point I wanted to hit it.
Yeah.
And I got the laughter, and then it was like, you're gone. It's like, oh, thanks.
Oh,
but there seemed to be the point where the 3 people in the audience, there was like one, if you're on stage, one to the left, one to the right, and one in front of you who had the cards. And the one to the left just put their card up for the sake of it, which then seemed to instigate the guy on the right to put his card up, then put pressure on the guy in the middle to put his card up, because you don't go until all 3 are done.
No.
And that, I don't know if that guy felt pressure to do it or what, or which order it went into, I don't know. But it was...
that sounds awful.
But like I say, the first time I did it, it was great. It just depends who you get on the night, and the actual MC swapped the cards around at half time.
Yeah, they did it at the one I did as well.
He actually came to a few of us at like the interval and just said, "That's a record for this. 1 in 10 is a record."
Wow,
that's ridiculous.
Wow,
and I mean, there was some people on there that were like getting to 4 minutes 40, 50 seconds. You could tell. And they,
that's so cruel.
I think it was. Yeah, you. I think your set is fine. If you're doing the kind of similar stuff that I've seen before, I think you're fine. I think it's got enough in it, enough humour in it that relates to everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's very much a deliberate.
Do you know what I mean?
In the writing.
Because the thing is, if you've got like a story, it's always harder to do a gong show because you need people to want to be interested and want to hear it.
Well, that's it. And if you're talking about a topic that doesn't immediately grab them, and then you've got, 4.5 more minutes of it, then you're not gonna keep them engaged, are you?
No, and that was one of the hardest things. But one of the funniest things was when I came off stage. I went and saw a friend of mine. I just went to the bar and I just looked at him and went, "What?" And he was like, "I don't know. I honestly had no idea." And one guy came out from the audience and came up to me and said, "I want to know the next sentence." He said, "I can't believe they got rid. I want to know what your relationship with piss is about." It was that.
I mean, that's a sentence you only hear on the circuit, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was that whole thing. It's like, and he came up like 2 or 3 times throughout the night going, "I need to know." I said, "Follow me on Instagram and you may find out."
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a way to get bringers for gigs, isn't it?
Yeah.
The guy who's desperate to know about your piss story.
But yeah, just going. If you've done Ding Dong, I don't even think Ding Dong you get a grace period, do you? I think you can go out.
No, you do. You get.
Oh, do you?
A minute, maybe.
Okay.
You do get some. I mean, a piece of advice that somebody gave me, which I think is really helpful, is if you're going to do a gong show. So a piece of advice that someone gave me was, if you're going to do a gong show, make sure you have got another gig booked within the next day or two, because you might need to like bolster your confidence again.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good advice, because what you were saying before, you know, about if you leave a week between gigs and you don't have a good one, well, it's that times 1,000 when it's a gong show.
Yep.
Because at least if you do a bad 5 minutes, people still have to sit and listen to it normally. So yeah, I think anyone who's listening who's got some kind of masochistic tendencies and wants to do a gong show, that's the advice that I would give. And if you do happen to do well, you go into that next gig feeling absolutely on top of the world.
Yes. Yeah. And I also think you don't have to beat it to feel like it's a good gig either.
Nope, not at all. You can still walk out of there with your head held high. And yeah, it's not just about beating it, but you know, it's nice to. On the blackout one, do they give you feedback afterwards?
No. You're off straight away.
Oh,
you're
okay.
off to stew in your own self-pity.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you get feedback at Ding Dong, which, you know, okay.
Yeah.
I can choose to ignore it.
The one thing I will say about the blackout is the food they do there is absolutely superb. So get there early.
There's food?
Yeah, they do like a wraps. So if you're into like it's almost like a kebab, but it's a kebab in like a flatbread.
Oh my god, no one told me about this.
But they put the salad in it, but they put the chips in it within it as well.
Like a gyros.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I couldn't think what the name was.
Oh my god.
They are the best. They are amazing.
I mean, I'm meant to be doing keto at the moment, but I would give that up for a free gyros, to be honest.
Oh no, you've got to pay for that. Unfortunately, it's not free.
Oh, well, I'll stick to keto then. I thought you meant they fed you, because you know sometimes like if you gig at like, I've been lucky enough to like gig at the Comedy Store and stuff, and they feed you pizza, and that is very nice.
Yeah, okay, cool. How did you find the Comedy Store?
I was doing it. I wasn't doing it as a stand-up. I was doing it with sketch show, and somehow we were cheeky and we blagged our way onto the bill with Jason Manford and John Thompson, and like. I think you've just got to be cheeky, haven't you? So we were. It was like established comedian new material night that we'd got ourselves on, and yeah, I mean we did well, and it was lovely to meet those people. Nice having a little chat with them in the green room. Yeah. Not John Thompson, he was a moody bastard, but like the others were nice.
Cool. It's cool. Experiences like that, I think, are the sort of thing that stick with you for a while as well. And you just, it's said it before that if you get somebody who you look up to or you see as on a higher rung on the ladder than you, who gives their time to have a chat, I think it helps.
I'll tell you who's really good. So there's a couple of people we supported at comedy nights in Manchester, which was Zoe Lyons and Izzy Sutty, and can I say both of them were absolutely gorgeous, wonderful women, and were exactly as they come across when you see them on TV, just generous, kind, lovely, funny people. So I can't speak highly enough of them both.
Cool. So going back to kind of the open mic stuff now, so you've been around the open mic circuit for a little while. What's the one thing that you'd like to see change?
More women.
Yeah.
And I don't just mean more women gigging. I mean more women running nights.
Yes.
Because the circuit is, I mean, what would you say? Is it about 70% male, do you reckon?
Yeah, I would guess it's probably something in that region.
Yeah, I think that as a woman, I've definitely dealt with certain situations with male MCs, which I'd rather not have to deal with.
Yeah, I understand.
I think, I'm sort of sort of debating how much to say about those things, but I'll try and keep it vague. Obviously, the thing is, as a woman who talks openly about being single on stage,
yeah,
I think that has made me a slight victim to the advances of some men on the syndicate sometimes, which just because I'm single does not mean that I want to be approached when I'm essentially at work, which is what I am. I think the problem can be, as a woman, that people get lulled into a false sense of security because it's at night, there's alcohol involved, there's a sort of convivial atmosphere. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm at work, and I don't want to be felt up. I don't want to be asked out. Unless it's someone like really hot, obviously.
Who's got his legs on the right way round.
Unless it's Josh, then. Then yeah, I'm not bothered. But no, seriously, I think having more women in charge would be a really great thing. Like I don't know if you've ever done. There's a gig called Bonkers in BR1, which is a gig in Bromley, which is run by Jenny, and her surname escapes me. Jenny Ford, maybe. She's an absolute mega babe, and the difference in being treated well when you arrive at a gig. So she talks you through everything. She shows you the mic stand. She tells you where to get a drink. She lays out a little tiny green room for the acts. So you've got tea and crisps and biscuits. And it might not be a huge thing, but it makes a world of difference in how you feel. And I have to say, with the exception of like Angel Raw, I don't think I've had a man take that much care in making sure you're comfortable and you know what you're doing. Like quite often you get to a gig and the MC just sort of ignores you, and you start off on the back foot a little bit, which is not really how you need to feel when you're about to do something that's ultimately quite vulnerable. But on that note, myself and some other women are setting up a very female focused comedy gig. So we're called Candy Store, and we're going to be, it's a comedy brunch. Okay. Which is going to be taking place monthly at Dabbers in Hackney, which we are very, very excited about. Cool. So it's going to be sort of championing female non-binary acts. We will have men on. We're not haters. We will, we want to be an inclusive gig, but also we just want to elevate and platform women, ideally. So we're really excited about it. So 2nd of March it starts, and we can't wait. Cool.
Sounds like a lot of fun, and it sounds like it's something that's actually needed as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the good thing is that the sort of people that come to a bottomless brunch, and yes, I'm a little bit nervous about the bottomless element of it, especially because I'm going to be emceeing the first one, so there might be a lot of people to keep under control when they've had too many Prosecco's. But the sort of person that, the crossover between, people that just go to a bottomless brunch and people that go and watch comedy, I don't know if that Venn diagram really meets in the middle. Mm-hmm. So I think what will be nice is maybe a group of people who haven't been exposed to comedy that much, or, I hate to say it, people who think women aren't funny, get to come along, have a really amazing afternoon, and come away maybe thinking, actually, I will go and watch more comedy, or I will seek out female comedians. And that's, the experience that we want to give to people. And if we can make that happen, that will be amazing.
Yeah, cool. Good luck with that.
And if they don't like it, they'll be absolutely hammered anyway. So win-win, we figure.
So would this be a first time emceeing or?
No, I used to run a night with a friend of mine. We were called Comedy Horn. And it was a non-bringer. Which, if anyone listening, I'm sure you've talked on your podcast before about bringers versus non-bringers, and people are familiar with that idea. Have you?
Actually, this was an interesting thing that was pointed out to me, was that I haven't really touched on this. I've mentioned what bringers and non-bringers kind of are, but for anyone that is listening that is maybe outside of London, London has a very big bringer scene, I would call it.
Yes.
In that you're expected as an act to bring somebody along to help make an audience for people to perform in front of.
Bringers are the bane of a comedian's life. Is
that
fair to say?
Yes, they can be extremely difficult for people to manage. But then there is the other side of it where if you're a non-bringer, you risk the slightly quieter nights. But you tend to find that outside of London, there's more non-bringers.
Yeah.
And I guess that comes down to London. There's gigs every hour of every evening of every night, so there's lots of nights to fill.
Yeah.
Whereas outside of London, maybe there's not so many nights that go on throughout the whole week. There may be more once a week or once a month or once a fortnight, whatever. So people will come out to see those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gig I referenced before that's in Bromley, I think because it is just that little bit out the way, not that I'm saying Bromley is, out in the sticks or anything. It isn't. But I think, that sells out every single time.
Yeah.
Because people don't have access to that kind of show. And it's amazing. There's a really good atmosphere. I think there feels like a real gratitude that you've brought that show to an area where maybe that doesn't have so many shows. And it's a lovely, lovely gig to do. If you can get on it, do. It's excellent. It was a really warm atmosphere because they're just really excited to see all these comedians each once a month, I think. But yeah, you're right. It is. Although, hang on, I'm sure I saw that a comedian that we both know who has moved to Scotland said something about going to a gig and needing a double bringer. They needed to bring 2 audience members. I've seen someone say that this week.
I've not heard of that. I've heard of that. I've heard of people in other countries. They have you're expected to bring 5 people or buy 5 tickets.
Oh no, is that in America?
Like that. Yeah.
Oh
I think New York has that reputation. Yeah. But yeah, I think the bringer market probably comes more from I hate to say it, oversaturation of gigs in London.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
So many.
I don't want to play to an empty room either.
Every single night in lots of different places. And it's nobody wants to go and perform in front of an empty room.
They don't. But also, some nights manage somehow to fill a room without it being a bringer, and those are the ones that we love.
Tits.
Yeah, some nights somehow manage to fill a room without it being a bringer, but that's just the tax we pay for doing something we love, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's a bane of our lives as such, but I understand the reasoning behind it. It's just some places are better at it than others. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of those, especially within the London circuit, you probably will never ever get away from it, should I say?
No. So we just have to try and climb up the echelons of comedy until we get to the point that we don't need to do it. So lovely.
I know. And so, out of all the jokes you've told, what's your favourite? How did you come up with it? And how has it changed over time?
Oh, God. Again, it's back to me feeling uncomfortable about picking myself up. But all right. Well, one of the first ever jokes I wrote, I'll go back to that, I guess, because it made me realise I did know how to write a joke. Is in my first ever set, I was talking. Look at me talking really slowly because I'm trying to remember the joke as I'm speaking. I had a joke about how scally parents call their kids names that are like a portmanteau of their own names.
Right.
And the punchline was something about, it's unfortunate because I know a couple that did that, but their names are Sharon and Dwight. And that got a big laugh. And I remember thinking, oh, that's a joke, an actual joke, rather than just me rambling on about whatever. And that was the first actually structured set up punchline joke I think I ever wrote. And I just thought, oh, it's good, this, isn't it? And I've never written one since.
So has that actually changed and evolved at all? Or have you just left it as that? And
no, I don't use it. And I'll tell you why. Is because and this is, look, I'm not excusing this. But you have to blame British culture that at the time of writing that joke, the word chav was part of the accepted parlance, and obviously that is not an acceptable word to use now. And my whole set was about how I secretly wanted to be a chav, and I realise now that's not okay. Although, am I allowed to say that because I'm technically from a working class background? I don't know. Do I have ownership of that? I'm not sure. Anyway, but that is largely why I don't use it anymore, because it's wildly inappropriate. Times change.
Often, I've asked what you think you'd like to see change, but what tips would you give people that are kind of fresh into it?
Or what I would say, and this is advice that is easy to give and really difficult to take, is just, I guess, try and not take it too personally if at first, the gigs don't go brilliantly. It might not be you. So please try and not take that on board and think you're a terrible, unfunny person just because you have a bad gig, because you're not. I would also say, and this is a really common thing for new comedians, is get to the joke quicker. Because we don't need 2.5 minutes of setup before we get to your punchline. Also, write punchlines. People forget that a joke needs a punchline. It seems so obvious, but it really does. Another thing I would say, if you're writing, work backwards. Know what the punchline is that you want to get to, and then do the setup from there. Maybe start that way round, and then it's a lot easier to write a joke if you know what the payoff is going to be.
Yeah, interesting. I like that. That's a very good writer's tip. Very good.
Yep, and you can join my comedy
I'd never
course.
thought of it like that.
Also, another piece of advice is specificity is key. So if you're like, I don't know, if you're talking about having a biscuit is fine. Garibaldi is funnier. So be more specific with your choice of words.
No, I read that in your comedy blog last night, actually, about the Garibaldi part. It's an interesting thing how certain words and certain letters have certain impacts on things.
They do. And also in my accent, it'll sound different to your accent. I think that's the other thing, is how the words actually sound from you as a person, because they sound different from everyone. And there will be words that sound really funny in a Scottish accent or brilliant in a Welsh accent. I think you can really use that to your advantage. And just sort of play with sounds, because just the sound of words in and of itself can be very funny and can be very
Yes. No, I completely agree. It's an interesting one. So one question I like to ask every guest is, if you were to become super, super famous one day, and you end up walking out in front of 5,000 people at Hammersmith Apollo to do your 20-minute special for Live at the Apollo, what would your walk-on music be?
Oh, I'm a Slave for You by Britney Spears.
Okay.
And I'd come out with a snake. I'm not saying it would be a good show. But they've paid now. They're there. It's my show. I can do what I want.
Very true. Very true.
I mean, she's not known for being funny, but that doesn't matter because, I would have the joy of having that song and I'd be funny. So, you'd be getting a lot for your money if you think about it.
And I guess you'll get, your thing is you'll be getting that laughter reaction at the start as well without having to say a thing.
Yeah, the thing is, I think
people would just think,
if your persona on stage is very much unsexy, which I would say mine is, then I think the contrast of having quite a sexy song is quite fun.
So as with most podcasts, every podcast seems to kind of need a little niche to go with themselves these days. So I'm trying to set every comedian that appears a small challenge if they're up for it.
Oh, God, okay.
This small challenge revolves around this book. I'm not sure if you can see it, but for everybody else, it says...
The little book
yes,
of shit
by
jokes.
an author called... Yeah, by an author called Sid Finch.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm challenging every comedian to do is to pick a joke from this book and put it into their set and record it, post it, and tag us. The thing is, though,
okay, that sounds interesting.
You get to pick the joke.
Okay, and does every comedian pick the number 69?
That one has already been picked.
Yeah, thought so.
So unfortunately, you can't have that one.
How many pages are there?
Give me a number between. You give me a number between 5 and 95.
Oh, okay. 72.
70. So the joke I want you to tell live on stage and have recorded and tag us in is as follows.
Oh, no.
A man at the bank asked me to help check his balance. It wasn't great when I pushed him over. He went right over.
It really is a shit joke, isn't it?
Remember the title of the book?
Yeah.
It is a shit joke.
You get what you pay for, I guess. Okay. I mean, remember how I said to you before, I haven't written an actual proper setup payoff joke since my first ever set. So that's going to be very jarring for anyone who watches me. And am I allowed to caveat this joke by saying I'm essentially doing this whilst being held at gunpoint by you?
You can if you want to. You can say it however you want.
Okay.
You can preface it by saying this is a challenge, or if you have something in your set that relates closely to something like that. I mean, this is about a bank checking his balance or whatever. If there's something else that could be checking with balance that's not balance, if you know what I mean, you can work it in. Go for it.
You've heard me say, and I have to say, banks and balances do not come anywhere into it. So I am going to have to make some very serious segues to try to fit that in. All right. But if I don't get booked again, Mark, I'm blaming you. If they're like, oh God, it's that northern one with the shit joke about a bank balance. Oh God, we'll not book her again. I'm holding you personally responsible.
That's fine. You'll be fine though. You'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Are you just trying to destroy every comedian that you have on your podcast?
You picked the page.
Oh,
remember that?
Come on. 69 was taken. Oh,
I'll tell you what 69 was. 69. I actually quite like joke 69.
Go on.
It's the joke on 69 is a man walked into a fishmonger's with a mackerel on his shoulder. Do you make fish cakes? The man asked. We sure do, said the fishmonger. Great, said the man. It's his birthday.
Okay, that's definitely better than page 72.
I quite like that joke. It's a bit of fun.
That's actually quite cute. I quite like that joke, yeah.
Yeah.
So, lucky them, whoever got that one. Good for them.
But no,
oh dear.
Yeah, I think that kind of really wraps up where we are today with this. So where can people find you? What's the links? And I'll put them in the description of the podcast.
People can find me. I'm at Emmy Fyles on all the things. You can, and I always post my gigs on my Instagram as well. So if anyone does want to come and stalk me after hearing my dulcet tones, then they're very welcome too. I mean, I'm not actually encouraging a stalker. Obviously.
No.
We did actually have a bit of a stalker.
Stay away.
Yeah. We we've had some experience of having stalkers through comedy. So yeah, no one do that. But yes, please follow me. And please come and watch me, especially on the nights that I need a bringer.
Cool. And you can find us at Open Mic Comedy Pod on Instagram, and all the W's, openmiccomedypod.com. If you could give us a nice little 5-star review on whichever platform you're listening to us on, Spotify, Apple Podcast, whichever one it is. Share it with some friends if you think they'll be interested, even if they're not actually comedians. I think some people will find this quite interesting from outside of the box as such. And until next time, I guess, thank you, Emmy, for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, Marc.
No problem. And to everyone else that's getting up on stage, keep trying to be funny, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.